reading this piece of shit, I'll be donating the ad revenue I make from all 3 of my 50 Shades themed episodes at the end of the month. Right, just the adaptation left to go. One last look at this shite and I am done forever, because I will not be covering the sequels. I'm sorry, beautiful watchers, I just can't put myself through this again. I just can't put myself through this again. Put myself through this again. Put myself through this again. I just can't put myself through this again.
The Dom really meant that when he said it. But life has a funny way of surprising you. And underestimating just how much people love to see you suffer is a terrible mistake to make.
You happy now, beautiful watchers? This is what you wanted. Well, it shall never be said that I'm not a man of my word. My stupid, stupid, stupid words. So, I guess we just have to jump straight back into this septic tank of a book series. Before I begin though, if you need a reminder of the events of the last book and or film, or my thoughts on either of them, there's the thing. Also, if this is your first time to my channel, hello! I am not that kind of Dom. My name is Dominic, and I didn't think it through when I chose my online handle. Much like the last time we danced this dance of shite, I've discovered that this is a book that most people know by reputation and have some idea of the plot, but not nearly enough that you're going to know what the fuck I'm talking about when I complain about certain things. So, to save me from having to explain everything as it comes up in the review, and to save you the horror of reading this book, here is my handy plot synopsis video. I hate everyone who retweeted that tweet. I'm going to try to present this plot as impartially as possible for now. If you hear something that makes you go, what the fuck, the Dom, then just try to sit on it for a little bit, because I'll almost certainly be talking about it in the book review episode that's coming next. Also, please note the as possible qualification that I included. I am only human, and I'm also British, so sometimes the sarcasm just cannot be contained. I should also warn you that it was really hard to write the synopsis, because this book is so fucking boring, sorry, spoiler warning, that when I got to the end, I realised I could barely remember any of it, so if you are unfortunate enough to have read it and you noticed I described some things out of order, please forgive me. Or don't, I just read 50 Shades Darker, nothing matters to me anymore. It is 3 days after the end of the last book, which concluded, if you'll remember, with the perverted billionaire recluse Christian Grey spanking the POV character, the shy and sexually naive college graduate Anastasia Steele, with a belt until she couldn't take it anymore and broke up with him. She's just started her new job at a Seattle publishing firm as the personal assistant to the editor Jack Hyde. Grey emails her reminding her that she had agreed to attend her friend Jose's photography exhibit in Portland the next day, and as he had taken and sold her old car, and she had returned the new one he bought her to him, she was probably going to need a lift, offering his services to this end. She accepts despite having very mixed feelings. He comes to get her the next day and immediately starts trying to talk her into taking him back. Actually no, that's a lie. The very first thing he says to her is a complaint that she's gotten too skinny now and telling her that he doesn't need her smart mouth when she tells him that that's none of his concern. She attempts to avoid the subject of them getting back together, as nothing has changed as far as she can see. He still psychologically needs to hurt her for unknown reasons, and she still wants more affection from him than he's willing to give. Also, she, quite fairly, doesn't want to get treated like a submissive or a masochist when she isn't one. When they arrive at the exhibit, she finds out that a whole bunch of the giant photos for sale are of her, that Jose took without her knowledge and put up on display without her consent. Just in case you had forgotten, all of these characters are scum. But of course, despite being really uncomfortable with this, she doesn't hold Jose accountable for it, and he acts only slightly sheepish at this betrayal of trust and friendship. In a fit of possessiveness, Grey buys all the photos and demands that Anna leave with him after only having been there for half an hour. Annoyed at him, Anna gives Jose an extra long hug to make him even more jealous. This apparently works because as soon as they leave, he drags her into a dark alleyway and forces his tongue into her mouth without consent or warning. In any other world but the one that James created, at this point Anna would have realised that she was just sexually assaulted, punched Grey, hopefully called the police and filed a restraining order, and then lived happily ever after. But alas, instead said sexual assault reawakens her lust for him, and she decides to hear out his reunion proposal. They go to a nearby restaurant, and over dinner he promises to drop the domination and punishment stuff if she agrees to date him again. She just cannot control her yearning for his monster cock, so agrees. He drops her off at her home, surprising her that he's not going to try and tap dad ass immediately. Apparently his intention is not to shag her again until she begs for it. So much for not trying to dom her, that lasted all of 30 minutes. He gives her a present which turns out to be an iPad. I had to stop reading at this point to check to see if E.L. James was officially on Apple's payroll because Anna spends the next page gushing about what an awesome product it is. They start the email flirting again and it is just as mind-numbingly painful as last time. He asks if he can see her the next day, but she tells him that her boss has already invited her to an after-work drink to celebrate her first week. On her way to the bar, a small girl who looks quite a bit like Anna accosts her on the street, confusingly asking what Anna has that she doesn't. Anna also starts to notice very unfortunate behaviour in her boss the more she gets to know him. Long story short, he's basically Harvey Weinstein. Gosh, the guy whose name is Hyde is actually a monster underneath a friendly exterior. You are a master of writing, James. Gray turns up at the bar and saves her from his first attempt to invade her personal space, proving once again that James is at least partially aware that the only way to make Gray look even remotely appealing is to make all the other men in the book so utterly vile he seems acceptable in comparison. It is a testament to how terrible Gray is that this doesn't work. While interrogating her on Hyde's behaviour, Gray lets slip that he just bought the company that she works for. He tries to excuse this both by saying he was going to do it anyway because it's a wise business decision, and he just did it to protect her and it's his right to do so. Anna is shocked and appalled at his abuse of power and the level of control that he's trying to exert on her life and career, but instead of pursuing a resolution to this, she is overcome with lust for him and they have sex. Afterwards, she decides to let it go and Gray gets his way. I sincerely hope you enjoyed that sentence, my beautiful watchers, because it will be repeated quite often in this synopsis. Gray insists on giving Anna back the Audi that he bought her, which upsets her for the same reasons it did the first time he gave it to her, so she offers a compromise. She'll give him the money he got for selling her old car and buy the new car from him. He acts deeply offended, demanding that she keep the car and the money, and boasting that he makes $100,000 an hour. Ah yes, nothing more romantic than a man who keeps throwing how much money he makes in your face. Anna thinks she might have thwarted him by tearing up the check he gave her, but he angrily makes a phone call to his accountant and has the money transferred directly into her account, giving away that he now knows her bank information despite her never having shared that with him. It turns out he has someone do extensive background checks on all of his potential submissives and keeps their personal information filed away in a cabinet in his office. You know, like you do. Anna feels this is a deep invasion of her privacy, but instead of pursuing a resolution to this, she is overcome with lust for him and they have sex. Afterwards, she decides to let it go and Gray gets his way. BTW, during the foreplay, he pours melted ice cream into her vagina so he can lick it out. I am confident in predicting that every woman and every man with a basic understanding of female biology in my audience just went, yeah! Anna states a desire to go for a haircut and Gray says that he knows a place nearby that's perfect for her. When they arrive, Gray is greeted by an attractive blonde older woman and Anna realises that he's brought her to a salon co-owned by his ex-lover Eleanor, the woman who made him her sub and fuck toy when he was 15 that she had mentally dubbed Mrs.Robinson. And yes, I would much prefer to be reviewing The Graduate right now. Eventually, Anna is almost able to explain to Gray just how much this has upset her, but he's immediately distracted by a phone call telling him that the girl that Anna met on the street is one of his ex-subs who's gone mad, bought a gun, and is now out to get either him or Anna. This is like Christmas come early for Gray because it gives him all the justification he needs to exert the level of control over Anna that he's been pining for under the guise of protecting her. Seriously, he clearly feels he can take the gloves off now because he picks her up, carries her to his car, takes her back to his place, and forbids her from leaving until the matter is resolved. Yes, that's basically kidnapping, but he's doing it for her safety. She's really mad at him for this humiliation, but instead of pursuing a resolution to this, she is overcome with lust for him and they have sex. Afterwards, she decides to let it go and Gray gets his way. Let's see. There's yet more sex. He reminds her that he doesn't like being touched on certain parts of his body, and he circles the parts in question with red lipstick so she'll know where not to go. He then takes her to a charity event thrown by his parents. It's the masquerade ball that's advertised so heavily on the cover art for the book and the film. They mutually decide it would be super sexy for her to have some sex toys up her hoo-ha for the entire night. They're these small metal balls that shift around when she moves. I would remind you this is a party hosted by his parents and little sister. Classy. Anna pisses off Christian no end by donating the money he forced on her, but she placates him by giving him an over-the-trousers handjob under the table. Again, just so classy. Anna unwittingly agrees to have her first dance of the night auctioned off for charity, and a mysterious blonde man gets into a bidding war with Grey, forcing the price up astronomically high. He turns out to be Grey's psychiatrist, Dr. Flynn. Evidently, professional detachment isn't a thing for him because he socialises and apparently messes with Grey outside of their therapy sessions quite often. The so-called Mrs. Robinson is also there, and she tries to talk to Anna. However, in her first real act of backbone, Anna calls her a paedophile and tells her to get lost. When they get back home, it turns out the crazy ex-sub has been there and might still be in the apartment. Despite his obsessive need to keep Anna safe and having several armed bodyguards to hand, Grey insists on going inside to check for himself, which I think takes his hypocritical acts to double figures by this point in the book. She seems to be gone, but defaced Anna's car, so Grey decides to buy her a new one. Anna is apparently too mentally exhausted to keep fighting him on stuff like this, so accepts. Oh, and it also turns out that the crazy sub was there the whole time and had been watching them sleep, so they go to a hotel to have lots of sex there instead. Then it turns out that Grey has, and you guys are gonna love this one, arranged for a respected doctor to make a house call so she can get Anastasia back on the contraceptive pill because he hates using condoms, without consulting her about it first. For some weird reason, the doctor is immediately very worried that Anna might be pregnant despite them never having not used a condom. I'll come back to that in the review, I guess. She gives her a contraceptive shot and a fresh batch of pills. Anna is understandably upset that Grey tried to make this decision about her body for her, but of course, instead of pursuing a resolution to this, she is overcome with lust for him and they have sex. Afterwards, she decides to let it go and Grey gets his way. They have a shower together and Anna manages to get him to admit that he loves her. He decides that she shouldn't go to work anymore for her safety. They fight over it and then have sex on a pool table, and he moves her stuff from her designated sub-room to his bedroom. That stuff that I just described in one sentence? 3 chapters of this book! 3! Anna finally doesn't let Grey get his own way completely and still goes to work, where Grey sends her flirty emails to her work account and then gets mad at her for flirting back because her emails are monitored. He also berates her for leaving the building briefly to pick up her boss's lunch because it turns out he was having her followed for her safety. Hyde then tells her there's going to be a last-minute business trip to New York on the weekend. Anna's quite excited because she's never been there before, but Grey flat out forbids her from going. When she refuses to obey him, he orders the CEO of the company to cancel all funding for business trips without his personal approval. Now, bear in mind that Grey hasn't told Anna that her boss has a history of sexual harassment at this point. He's simply repeating that the answer is no, over and over again, despite her not having asked his permission. He tells her some of the truth later that night, but rather than discuss it any further, they just have sex, and afterwards she decides to let it go and Grey gets his way. Just when it looks like Anna might finally be about to explain to him that he's being a controlling, unreasonable monster, in a very cowardly, sugar-coated way of course, they're interrupted by the arrival of Mrs. Robinson. She is apparently coming to Grey for help because she's being blackmailed, and oh my goodness, I have never seen a plot point in a book go so much nowhere before in my life. It's never brought up again until it's resolved a few chapters later when you hear Grey talking to her on the phone and saying, "Oh, it was just your new sub messing with you. Well, that's good." Fuck me, the mother-in-law announcing that she has cancer in the room was a better tied-in subplot than this. It's nothing but a lame excuse to bring Eleanor to Grey's penthouse at this exact moment in the story so she and Anna can hiss at each other like cats. Okay, I am really starting to lose the will to live here, so can we just pretend that in between everything I'm about to tell you, I stop to say that Grey does something morally abhorrent that any sane person would leave him for in a hot second, but instead they fight for a little bit, fuck, then Anna mentally makes excuses for him or convinces herself that she's the one in the wrong, and Grey gets his own way. Yes? Thank you. A guy called Ethan turns up, Anna's roommate's brother. He's sort of around for some of the plot, but doesn't really do anything. There's quite a few characters like that. The first remotely interesting thing of this book occurs 13 chapters in, when Grey's crazy ex-sub ambushes Anna in her apartment with her gun. Alas, the entertainment lasts less than a few pages, because Grey bursts in and uses his domination powers to make her drop the gun, immediately resolving the situation. He then banishes Anna from her own home so he can have some alone time with her. And yes, I can confirm that one of the things that everyone thinks they know about this book is correct. He gives his ex a bath, then immediately carts her off to a psychiatric ward. Anna is, once again, understandably upset by all of this, so goes out for a few drinks with Ethan. When she gets back, Grey is furious at her for not running straight back to his place like he told her to. conveniently forgetting that the reason she wasn't supposed to be out and about was busy getting her back scrubbed by him at the time, but I can only assume he expected to be allowed to continue this level of control over her forever. For her safety. She says she needs a little time away from him to think things over, and that rocks his world so much he collapses into the submission position right in front of her. She finally asks what his fucking problem is. I am, of course, paraphrasing. What she really said was more akin to, "My lovey-dovey Grey-senpai, you're so pretty and so smart and I love you so much, but please tell me why you act the way you do." He tells her that his crack whore mother, yes, he uses those exact words, no one ever uses any other words to describe his mother other than crack whore, neglected him as a wee nipper and let her pimp abuse him and stub out cigarettes on his chest, which is why he doesn't like being touched there now, which is understandable, but ye gods, James, if you think I have any capacity to feel sorry for this douchebag, after all the shit he's pulled, you are more delusional than your understanding of BDSM. Anyways, Grey eventually tells Anna that he wanted her to be his submissive in the first place because she looks just like his mother, and his way of dealing with his pain is to find such women, punish them, and have sex with them. What? She tells him to stop panicking like a puppy that doesn't want its owner to leave him alone. Again, no, she doesn't. She's a simpering idiot like always, but she gets across the message that she's not going to break up with him over this. He apparently takes this to mean that this is a perfect time to propose to her. Against all conceivable logic, instead of abseiling out of the nearest window to escape him, she tells him that she needs to think about it. They almost make it all the way to bedtime before arguing again, but then Anna makes the mistake of asking Grey what he did with his ex while she was gone, and he tells her about their bathtub fun times. It seems they've finally found a set of problems serious enough that Grey can't just fuck them away. Until the next morning. Yes, Anna's horror about finding out that her lover was only interested in her in the first place because of a vast lack of understanding in regards to what a sadist is, and an Oedipus complex that would make Sigmund Freud himself go, "Scheiße! Girl, get your ass out of there!" and finding out that the most jealous man in America thought that sending her away so that he could undress his ex was a perfectly acceptable way to spend an afternoon only lasted one night, and then she went right back to letting him pound her like yesterday's beef. Most of the next chapter consists of Anna trying to rationalise and justify Grey's lifelong attempt to become as close to a literal motherfucker as possible. And succeeding, deciding to pity him and redouble her efforts to heal his emotional wounds instead of realising that no amount of childhood trauma gives anyone a free pass to treat people like he's treated her. She's interrupted by the second of the closest thing this book has to something actually happening. Her boss Jack Hyde corners her in the break room, tells her that he's found the sexy email she's been sending to Grey and tries to blackmail her into letting him rape her. She kicks him in the nuts and runs away, finding Grey and his bodyguard Taylor outside the building. Taylor goes in and beats the crap out of Hyde while Grey gets him fired with a single phone call. Once again, the only thing even remotely resembling a plot is resolved within a few paragraphs. Anna gets given her former boss's job as chief editor despite only having worked at the company for a few weeks. Grey swears that he had nothing to do with it, but if you believe that, then I have a nice bridge I'd like to sell you. It's on Kronos, the Klingon homeworld. Anna decides that she needs to discuss Grey with his shrink, Dr. Flynn, and I will definitely swing back to their conversation in the review because it kind of boggles the mind. After that, Grey drives her to a fancy neighbourhood full of mansions and basically tells her that yes, he did agree not to put pressure on her about marrying him, but he's already found them a house to live in. He then ramps up the pressure for her answer for the rest of the day, even hinting he's going to withhold sex until he gets an answer, which results in a painful scene in a restaurant where they both try to out-sexy one another to make the other break first. He then gives up on this tactic and finger bangs her in a crowded elevator. Again, so classy, just so classy, Grey. And then, of course, they fuck some more instead of talking about their many inescapable recurring relationship problems. The next day, Jose gets in touch and asks if he can crash at her place when he comes to Seattle to drop off the photos that Grey bought. Grey, of course, throws a hissy fit at the idea of her spending any time with someone with a Y chromosome, though in this one particular case, he might have a slight point because Jose did try to sexually assault her not long ago, but I will be damned if I'll give him that because he acts the same way about her spending time with any man. They eventually agree that he'll stay with them at Grey's place instead, so he can watch them the whole time and make sure they don't make any physical contact or look at each other for too long. However, this time, before he gets a chance to fuck the argument away, he and his personal helicopter go missing on their way back from a business meeting. Anna and all of Grey's adopted family meet at his place to wait for news, and she falls into a deep despair. for about 5 minutes, then he walks through the door without a scratch on him. Yep, that bit's real too. Oh, my poor sweet 50 Shades of Fucked Up. Will I ever see you again? Sup? What? This is the crowning glory of this book's habit of ensuring that everything that isn't fighting or fucking starts and ends in as fewer words as possible. It turns out he was flying low when both engines simultaneously caught fire, probably sabotage, and he had to make an emergency landing. He'd spent the rest of the day getting a ride home. You are going to love the reason he didn't call ahead review episode. Now, you would think that this was the climax of the book, but it just keeps on going. It just keeps on fucking going! It turns out that Anna gave Gray a box days ago to be opened on his birthday, which has just arrived, so he opens it and it's got a keyring inside with the word yes on it, so they're engaged now! Yay! He can fuck the girl who looks like his mother forever! Anna then insists that he take her into the playroom for some kinky fuckery to celebrate. This is the conclusion to her character arc, but not a good one. Again, I will come back to this in the review. They announce their engagement at Gray's birthday party, and Eleanor tries to tell Anna that she's not good enough for him because she can't BDSM him like she used to, a little too loudly. Gray's adopted mother overhears, slaps her, and throws her out, and then Gray takes Anna off to a room that he's filled with hearts and flowers to propose properly, because that's a reference to him saying he doesn't do the hearts and flowers thing in the first book. There's a semi-epilogue about a mysterious man outside watching the house from the shadows and swearing revenge. Ooh, who could this be? It's Jack Hyde. Of course it's fucking Jack Hyde. Who the fuck else could it be? Oh, thank the gods that's over. Right, now that everyone's reasonably up to speed with the events or lack thereof in this book, please do join me next time, my beautiful watchers, if you would like to see me tear this piece of excrement a new one. Yes, I know that's a weird mix of metaphors. I think this book actually made me stupider. Hey beautiful watchers, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that there's a variety of rewards you can earn by becoming a Patreon, including early access to all videos, getting to be a part of the survey about how many people saw the film and read the book, or playing Minecraft with me on my 24-hour server. Higher level contributors can also join the Dom Skype chat room, and best of all, choose future episodes of Lost in Adaptation. However, if right now you are thinking, my goodness the Dom, I can't do that, I need my money to buy fattened goats for the dragon I have hidden in my basement. He'll eat nothing else! Fear not, if you would instead be willing to like, share, subscribe, or a combination of all three, that goes a long way towards helping my channel grow and reach new beautiful watchers. Have a most pleasant day, and I will see you soon. I shouldn't have dragged on that. That's a fake cigarette. I've just got like talcum powder in my mouth. Ha!